Hello. So, yeah, my name is Jason Scott. I work for the Detroit Pistons, so I have a glamorous job hanging out with professional athletes all day long. I just don't make as much money as them, which is unfortunate. Yeah, so great intro by Steve, and we are doing some really cool stuff, but I also think that we need to showcase just some emails. Like, it's great that we show some theory and what's happening, but let's see some examples, because that's always something that I like to see, is what are people doing and some ideas to take away. So that's me hanging out on the court with Chauncey Billups, number retired, pretty cool. Like I said, I'm the eMarketing director for the Detroit Pistons, which is the basketball team in Detroit for the NBA. Oversee the emails, fan clubs, lead scoring, that kind of thing. I went to school for architecture, so this reminds me a lot of my final projects in architecture, having to create a project and present it to a jury and be graded on it. So give me a good grade at the end, and I'll be happy. We sell a lot of products. It's not just a ticket to a game. You'll hear me talk about season memberships, which is a season ticket holder, but a membership is more than that. It's really, you get club access, before and after events, meet players, things like that, fan clubs. We have camps and academies for kids. You'll see presented by Kroger. We sell sponsorships. It's sports. There's naming rights deals. So if anybody's interested, let's connect. And we have a merchandise store. So we do a lot of different things to a lot of different for a lot of different audiences. Anything from a B2B play for naming rights all the way down to a $10 or $15 ticket in the upper bowl in the last row. And we have to speak to them in different ways. So as you can see from the quick video, it's not just a basketball game, it's an experience, right? From the food, from the rival, to the players, to the game itself. So quick trivia. How many championships have the Pistons won? Does anyone know? Keep going. 3. Can you name the years? Think Bad Boys? 89, 90, and 2004. Just wanted to open that up. So we're going to talk about dynamic content and how we're using it. So we have a game day guide, our email, which is leveraging the NBA's API feed for score, player stats, matchup, time, where it's played. Basically anything that the NBA is tracking, we can leverage. We're also leveraging Google Analytics or Google Maps for live traffic maps around the arena and device targeting. We're going to talk about our ongoing Pistons emails. Love this one. It's super simple. We build one email, and it continues to update on itself over time, and we don't have to touch it. A locker room store, same thing. Updating content. We don't touch it. Little personalization. Welcome to the team. How do we welcome our fans once they subscribe? And then a B2B prospecting invite. Leveraging known and unknown data to entice them to come out to an event to have a drink and meet with some of our sales reps. So if you've already seen this, just disregard, just go on Facebook, Twitter, whatever, ignore it. This is our game day email. And we're leveraging a lot of different things. Like I said, this goes out to all of our ticket holders, whether your season ticket, individual game ticket, and everything in between. Contains a lot of dynamic content. The key to it is we don't code this. Essentially, we plug in a date, the date of the event, and the email is generated in full. And it's one of our highest engaged emails. So as you can see, the score, these are just screenshots throughout the game. Updates as it's happening. Time is updating. It's also, it's leveraging that API that powers our website as well as our app. Everything is in real time. It's actually faster than the TV delay. So you can see it on your phone faster than you can see it on TV sometimes. Sometimes things happen. Does anyone know who this guy is? Blake Griffin, right. So this year, in January 30th, we traded for him, and we don't get a heads up. A lot of people think we get a heads up and we know what's going on. You know about the same time I know. And we had a game that night. So we got rid of, or traded 2 players to get him. That meant all creative had to be updated. From the opening video to all the monitors in the new arena, which is approximately 1,200, all the graphics, all the flyers, because we pass out game day guides, had to be reprinted, re-updated, and email had to be updated. Guess who was last on the list for priority? Right here. But what's great about this email, I didn't have to worry about it, because the players listed in there are generated from the NBA API. Since he was officially traded, those players were taken off of our team in the API, and he was added into it. I didn't have to do anything, which was great. Everyone else was scrambling to change things up. I didn't even change anything. I didn't even have to resend the email, didn't have to do anything. This is part of it. It shows before the game our matchup stats. During the game, it shows the players who are on the court and their current stats on the court. And then after the game, it shows how we ranked between the 2 teams. We see a lot of reopens for this email, which is kind of surprising. We didn't expect that. We see people opening it to see a lot of different things in it. Maybe it's they're leaving the game a little early and they just open it up in the car on the way home. Live traffic. This is huge for us. One of the biggest pain points for most arenas and stadiums is getting to and from the game. A lot of traffic, a lot of people. We have also the Tigers play nearby, and in April, when they're doing some of their spring games, they could have a game while we have a game going on. So a lot of traffic issues can happen, whether closing streets, egress, and ingress. So this is actually one of our highest clicked links in any email that we have. And it opens up Google Maps. It's great. Points right to the arena. A lot of people looking how to get to and from the arena. We're also doing device targeting for our mobile app. What device are you on? Pretty simple stuff, but additionally, we're using that as well. And then we do generate some revenue. We are displaying the next 3 home games and link to buy tickets. So how do we construct this? We worked with Movable Ink, and we essentially tap into the API. We have a framework that's built out, and literally in the upper left there, we plug in the date. The date of this game was January 30th, 2018, and it builds itself. I mean, think about that. We can build an email 5-10 minutes, if that, and I don't have to proof anything. I mean, that's amazing. I don't have to get approval on creative because it's generating already. All of that's already been approved by the league. So how does it work? I think a lot of people have seen this or know how it works, right? We send an email, it opens, we put out that image request. That image is generated based on our CRM data, website, API source, things like that. So what are the results from this? The big thing is we saved a ton of time. On average, before we went to this, now we're spending 15 minutes or so. So we saved basically 2 weeks of effort to build that. 2 weeks of salary that we didn't have to pay out, that we can work on different projects. That's huge. And this is just one email that we were able to do that. We're seeing a higher engagement time. We've seen a lift in ticket revenue, which is okay. And then number of clicks. And the best part is we've minimized our photo errors, our logo errors, and our stat errors. It's not like we get that email that comes in that's like, hey, what's wrong? What happened to this photo? Well, we didn't do anything. That is the league-approved photo. That is the league-approved email. There's nothing wrong with it. I love this one. Super simple. When you sign up, you get an email that's personalized on the jersey. Welcome to the team. What fan doesn't want to have their name on the jersey that is of their team? And it will scale back on the side. So if you have a really long last name, it automatically scales down. On the other side, we limit offensive words, right? we know kids have fun with things. They might use some dollar signs in there to make things work, and that would be horrible if that got out on Twitter or whatever. Hey, check out what I did. So we really have been able to limit that. We don't. It's if you have an offensive word, an icon, things like that, it'll just say Pistons fan, and you don't know any different. The funny story with this is that when we rolled it out, our CMO had got it in his email inbox when we were rolling out for the new season, and he reached out. Wow, this is great. How'd you guys get my last name on there, right? Creative must have spent a lot of time doing all these last names to send it out. I was like, no, your name's just on it just generated. So I had to walk him through how simple it was to do this. Big thing for this is typically our first touch point with anyone, and we've seen a 14% decrease in the number of unsubscribes on the first email, which is huge. We don't see a ton of unsubscribes, but to decrease that was great. And then a lot of social praise. A lot of people, this is so cool. I see I'm on the team. Here's my jersey. Next steps for us are really to try and transfer that and to get people to purchase customized jerseys on top of that, which is coming. We haven't gotten there yet. This one is great. So this email pulls from the website. On average, we create 6 videos per game throughout the year, and we have 41 games per year. So lots of content, and our website is always being updated. So it pulls directly from the website, videos. This one in particular just shows all the videos, but it's constructed at the time of open. So no matter when you open it, it's always the most recent content. So it could be last night's game. It could be this morning's feel-good story of when the players visited, maybe a children's hospital, something like that. Big thing that we ran into was, well, I don't know if we really want to put everything on the website in the email. My argument to that was, if it's good enough for web and it's good enough for social, why isn't it good enough for email? Why are we holding email to such a high standard when it can work for everything else? And so we do this. So here's a basic layout of this email. It's one email, and all we did was copy it 5 times and change the subject line. So now I have 5 emails that send out regularly, but the content's always changing. And it was a really hard concept for a lot of people to understand. We don't change the image links. We don't change the links in the email. None of it changes because it's just always the most recent. And the big thing is it's great to have the most recent content. We may have a game that's back-to-back, and we don't want to send something yesterday when we've already played a game today. It's already outdated. We opened our click-to-open rate. We saved a ton of time. We don't have to sit there and go through and pick content. What are we going to show? What are we not going to show? It's just there. It's the most recent content. And using AI would be great. I would love to pick AI to do this. But this is an easy way for us to just keep it going and take that first step into the bigger picture overall. And then we minimize photo error, links overall. We don't have to update anything, right? Like, if they made an error on the website, update the website, and it'll update the email. We've done the same thing with our merch store, clothing, things like that. Very simple. I think a lot of people have done this before. Same thing. We saw a lift in conversion rate, save some time, things like that. And this is one of our newer emails. This is for B2B prospecting. So our sales team really likes to have a hand in this. They like to be involved. Every season ticket member must go through a sales rep. You can't buy it online. And so when they're prospecting, they like to bring people out, show them the club spaces, have a drink, take them to dinner, things like that. The big problem we ran into was that we didn't know someone else's availability. We didn't know their schedule. Were they available Wednesday night, or were they available Friday night? Did they actually like the Raptors, or do they prefer the 76ers? You can leave. So we're pulling in the games that are upcoming. So essentially, we create one invite that works for approximately a month. It's a triggered-based email. And so as someone progresses down the funnel, or a rep feels like they are ready to be invited out, they can actually add them to the campaign and it'll trigger out. And it'll update the games in real time. So we can build this at the beginning of the month. They can send it at the end of the month. 5 games may have passed, but those 5 games don't show anymore. Only the ones that are available. So what did we see? We saw almost an 8% lift in the number of RSVPs for prospects to come out to a game, which is huge. I mean, we're not reaching a huge audience, and every little bit counts. And we also were able to involve the reps in this process. So many times the reps want to be involved. They want to do their own thing, but they don't always represent the brand in a certain manner that should be, or high standard. I think everyone knows that. So once we enable this on their side, they can log into our CRM, and they can trigger this out and send it out. And it looks just as great as it should be. The games show as they should be. And then their prospect can decide which one they want to go to. All right, so just to recap a little bit. I have a small team. It's really me and just one other person making all these emails. So not only am I making these decisions, but I'm also in there making the emails as well. And for us, saving time is huge. If we can save time, that's the biggest benefit we have. So I think you can actually do more in less time and still have very engaging emails. Now, that doesn't mean that we have boring emails. Like, I'll be the first to admit it. These are some of our more exciting emails, but we do have those emails that are boring, right? Like, they just have to go out, and we just haven't gotten to them yet. Small wins are big wins. Like that jersey I showed you, that was a very small project, but it was a huge win. Just to have that out there was big for us. And then what would you open, click, and buy? So many times I work with creative, and they want to make something that's so exotic and it doesn't really resonate. Like, would you buy that? Would you click that? Well, I don't know. Well, then why would you design it that way? So, make sure that that's also in there. And then final piece. Does anyone remember what the score was on that game day email? No. 125, 114. Sorry, LeBron, you lost that game. And go Pistons.
Thank you, Scott. We have questions for Scott?
No? Nothing?
Well, I got questions.
Hang on. Wait, we got one back here. Yep.
Okay.
Hi, Ty from Warner Music. Question about the image generation. You don't mean complete image generation, you mean like grabbing from content library? So for the names, I'm assuming you put a text name on an image background, but I'm assuming.
Yes.
But for when you said before on some other image generation, you mean like grabbing the right image from a whole content library, basically?
Yeah, so on the game day email, the NBA maintains an image library of all the player photos, logos, arena. I mean, they have a huge asset library that we access through that. But a lot of it, like the name on the jersey, it's basically a plain jersey that then we place the name on it, and then the image is generated at that time.
Got it. And so I'm assuming how was the work on getting the content library labeled correctly, or maybe was it already set because it's also used for other sources, or because I mean you'd have to know what to pick. Everything has to be labeled really great in order to do the right matching. No.
Yeah. So for the NBA asset library, they have a structure base that we know what it is. It's like Pistons, home player, home jersey. Then that's the photo you would grab, or like black background versus a light black background, that kind of thing. So just knowing that structure is how we would determine which one to grab.
Awesome. Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I'm curious about the behaviors of users whose expectation is not to reopen an email to get updates. What have you learned? You've been doing this for a while, this idea of having this sort of live updated content within an email. What have you learned either from users or just from the data about whether you're actually retraining fans to think differently about that open so that they're actually going back to the same email and using it as a kind of reference.
Yeah, and we do see that, and a lot of it, I think, it comes down to the ease of use of it. I know it's easy to go on an app and open it, but you already saw this maybe a few hours ago, so it's very fresh in your inbox, it's very fresh on your mind, and let's be honest, everyone's always looking at their email throughout the time, so you already have that app open, and so we saw a lot of people reopening it. Not only when we would send it, they'd open it, they'd reopen it just before the game, and a lot of them were taking a look at that traffic map, and then reopening it again just before the game would end or just after the game ended, which was highly not what we expected. We really weren't expecting people to do that, but that's what they're doing.
Were you signaling them in any way to do that? Or, I mean, were you instructing them that this is something that their email could do that they weren't expecting, or are they simply discovering it on their own?
We kind of put some cues, right? So we said live traffic, right, instead of just predictive traffic or whatever happened to be. So we tried to put some small cues in there, but we weren't calling out. We weren't saying, hey, reopen this email to see it to update over time.
Jason, as usual, thank you very much. That was great.